Okay, this is about Manuel Noriega and how it's related to the Oklahoma City bombing. The way it's related is Noriega's drugs were sold in America by your CIA, okay? And they were sold on Hughes, this man here, his property in Michigan. What your government does, and even did during the Obama administration, is that we sell weapons to dictators, and these dictators give us drugs, give the CIA drugs, and they sell it. So Fast and Furious was all about this, and this was going on way back, as far back as 1977, on Hughes' property. Now, look at the date that the CIA gives us on Wikipedia for the birth of Manuel Noriega. Notice it's February 11, 2/11, the reverse of the JFK assassination, which we've seen in our last several videos. They keep repeating that date intentionally because it's reflective of the same truth and about Hugh Squires and the truth of JFK and 9/11. Now, so let's go on a little bit further and read what it says about him. He was known for his complicated relationship with the U.S., being described as being its ally and nemesis at the same time. Well, that's just a really nice way of saying if you supply drugs for the CIA in exchange for guns, just like the Fast and Furious program under Obama, be prepared to be the fall guy if it is exposed. Now, we were talking about 1977 if the drug trade was being traded on Hughes' property. All right, so CIA had set up a drug ring. They were trying to frame Hugh, get him framed for setting up this drug ring because of JFK and Jimmy Hoffa. Remember, this is 1977. Jimmy Hoffa was just murdered a year or two before that. Well, now, let's look at what else happened that year. Elvis Presley. And you'll see how it all ties together as we go. Elvis Presley died August 16, 1977. Okay? Same year as this Noriega drug trade. And it's not a coincidence they tell you that he died on a toilet. Okay? This is why this is important. So, and they also said he was 42 years old. Kobe Bryant's jersey was 24. Okay, 2 and 4 on the back of Hughes' baby pictures. Now, this is a picture of the toilet, and you can read his Facebook entry here. He says, I was kidnapped and chained here in Osborne's basement. That was the governor of Michigan, Osborne, and his, not him, but his descendants, the Osbornes and the descendants of 5 other governors. On Hoover Street there in Michigan, forced to watch men beat my twin in 1957, so he was 4 years old. Now, Hugh owned Baker College, so he was chained to this toilet here in this basement. Osborne family owned it, and Hughes' family owned Baker College. So pay attention to Baker College because James Baker was George H.W. Bush's White House Chief of Staff, even as Noriega was arrested in 1990, okay? Keep this in mind as we continue. Let's go to 1980. Hugh's daughter was kidnapped off of her school bus and almost murdered, but Hugh rescued her and filed suit against the excavation company where he found her and rescued her. So what do you think ticked them off more? The stopping of Noriega's drug trade on his property, or Hughes' work in Congress to rewrite the Berne Convention, which was going on at this time, which cost airline companies and other companies billions of dollars a month in new royalty fees? But wait until you see what they did to Hugh on an airplane. Remember, this Berne Convention rewriting cost billions of dollars a month from just the airline industries alone, and not to count everybody else now had to pay all these new royalties to the singers and artists after it was rewritten. Well, so this was in 1980 when Hughes' daughter was abducted. We rescued her, the big court case, but he lost the court case because it's pretty obvious that the judge was bribed. Okay, now let's keep going and pay attention to what's going on. This was about airplanes and royalties, a about the Baker family, and about Elvis Presley. This all relates to Manuel Noriega's drugs. Now, 3/3/1981, this was the date that Ronald Reagan was shot after leaving where? Baker College. Remember, Noriega's drug operations were being conducted by the CIA on Hughes properties in Michigan. George Herbert Walker Bush had been the director of the CIA, and his White House chief of staff was James Baker. Baker College, chief of staff for the head of the CIA, George H.W. Bush, Baker. Now, 5/13/1981. This is the date that the Pope John Paul was shot. Ronald Reagan was shot 3/3/81. So just a couple months later, the Pope was shot. Where did Noriega hide out until he was arrested? At the Vatican. Notice that George Herbert Walker Bush's CIA was running drugs and was at odds with the President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, and the Pope. Now let's go to 1983. 1983 is the year that the song Murder by Numbers went nationwide. The song is by the Police, a group called the Police. And incidentally, it was the Apache-led police force that murdered Jimmy Hoffa only about 8 years prior to this song. Now read the lyrics right here. If you can slip a tablet into someone's coffee, then it avoids an awful lot of mess. Well, that sounds like they've done this before, doesn't it? Well, it won't be the last time. In 1987, Hughes Coffee was poisoned at the Wayne County International Airport in Detroit, just before his plane went down. He thinks that maybe the pilots were either poisoned or that they created a failure in the mechanics of the plane. Somehow, he's not sure. But he was definitely poisoned. The media told you that only one little girl survived. However, Hugh was also on this plane, but the media did not tell you about him surviving, just about the little girl. Notice that the plane went down 10 years to the day after Elvis Presley's murder. And I do say murder. So here's the date right here, August 16, 1987. Okay, let's go back up. In case you forgot, Elvis Presley, August 16, 1977, to the day, 10 years later. And here's a picture of that flight that went down. And look at the 42 degrees north latitude, 42.24. Oh, Kobe Bryant again. The picture's on Hughes' baby pictures. 4224. Oh, and 83, like Murder by Numbers, which came out in 1983. 1985. We'll skip on ahead. So the plane crashed in 1987, but back up 2 years, and let's look at the supposed DEA agent, who was almost definitely a CIA agent, who was murdered at the order of Noriega, Kiki Camarena, who died in 85. Okay, it says he was a DEA agent, and he was tortured and murdered while on assignment in Mexico. But do you know what makes this story so interesting? Guess what the name of Hughes' fiancée at this time was? Kiki Nelson. Kiki Camarena. Kiki Nelson. And Kiki would be murdered on Christmas Day in 1991. All of Hughes' wives or fiancés were murdered on holidays, Hughes' birthday, or in one case, another important event. Now we go to 1/3/1990. Here's the arrest date of Manuel Noriega as he is ousted out of the Vatican after the U.S. Armed Forces played loud music and drove him out. Again, the Vatican. And the Pope was shot at the same time as Ronald Reagan within a couple months. 1990, that happened. In 1991, Hughes' fiancée, Kiki Nelson, was murdered on Christmas Day, like I was just saying. A plan to bury Hughes' stolen trademark in a civil rights abuse case that would later be filed in the Pentagon on 9/11 along with his trademarks and receipts that were in the Twin Towers, was already underway. The treasonous George H.W. Bush, former head of the CIA, begins his plan. So right after 1991, here we are already, the beginning of the Gulf War air bombing campaign. 158,000 people murdered by these air bombing campaigns. What is that doing? Distracting away from the CIA drug ring, preparing to plan 9/11 to cover up everything that they had taken from Hugh. And here's the dates highlighted right here. 17th of January, 1991 through the 23rd of February, 1991. So let's look at those dates. World War I began for the U.S. in 1917. There's the 17 again and the 191. So do you see the numbers 1, 9, and 7? Now the Bushes are known for their fraternity Skull and Bones, which loves to make use of the number 223. February is the second month. The 2, 2, 3. You see how they did that? Now, and again, as I've said in other posts in the past, the Skull and Bones fraternity was a fraternity of doctors originally. Okay, healers, not killers. But 9/11 was done on the date that you call an ambulance. So do you see why they would hijack the number 223 as their number? Now, so there's the 223. Do you see a 119 in there also? Well, there's your 1, 9, and your 1. The World Trade Centers were World Trade Centers 1, 2, and 7. So can you find that too? January 1, February is the 2. There's your 7. Oh, and all of U.S. wars are preceded by the attack of a ship. In this case, the ship didn't sink. The U.S. Cole in 2000 had 17 sailors killed. And remember, this is all related to 9/11. This was the Gulf War campaign leading up to 9/11. Okay? USS Cole in 2000 had 17 sailors killed. So do you see another 17 in that? Oh, and the Parkland, Florida shooting events, where Hugh took pictures for Bottom Line, happened 17 years after the Cole bombing, in which also 17 people died. George Herbert Walker Bush was involved in all these events as former head of the CIA. Along with Bush, other CIA agents and operatives involved in selling Noriega's drugs that were traded for weapons were admitted open former CIA agent Robert Tosh Plumley, a fellow named Tom, and another fellow named Hanks. And that's the reason you got Tom Hanks on television. And as well, Timothy McVeigh and Nichols. And this is not a complete list. Now, skip ahead to 1995 and Shelby Donuts. While Hugh visited Shelby Donuts, two men, this particular one, two men come in dress suits and unexpectedly began talking to Hugh. They were FBI agents, and Hugh tells the story right here.
Here is Shelby Donuts on the day of Oklahoma bombing when John Nichols and McVeigh were my neighbors. An FBI agent sat on either side of me here at the counter here and told me, you never know what's going to blow up. And they were in suits. And then I went home around the corner on Durham Street to Victoria Milan's house, Bill Milan's house. And 3 hours later, there was an explosion in Oklahoma City. And
Okay, so the very same day that the Alfred P. Murray building was bombed, these men came in to talk to Hugh. Obviously, they must have been watching him for some time. And did you hear that? One of them said to Hugh, "Oh, you never know what might blow up today or be bombed today." 3 hours later, the Alfred P. Murray building explodes in Oklahoma City. The very CIA agents Nichols and McVeigh, who bought and traded Noriega's drugs on Hughes' property, were blamed for the incident. Is it any wonder that the head of the CIA's son would say on 9/11 Hughes' structures are collapsing? Oh, what a Freudian slip that is.
Los Angeles, California, 1988. What was then called the
fence. And now we are told that there's a fire there, and that building may collapse as well as you can.
Pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief.
metaphor.
Hughes structures are collapsing. Hughes structures are collapsing. Gee, I wonder what he was thinking about that day. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.